Have you ever had the terrifying realization that the very people you love are the anchors keeping you from moving forward? Not because they're cruel, not because they want you to fail, but because they've settled and your hunger for more makes them uncomfortable. Here's the brutal truth. You cannot rise with those who have chosen to remain where they are. And the moment you decide to outgrow your circle may be the moment you feel completely alone. This is the story of a man who valued loyalty over ambition until one public humiliation shattered his pride and forced a choice that tore him apart before it rebuilt him stronger than ever. If you've ever felt guilty for dreaming bigger than the people around you, stay with me. This might be the permission you've been waiting for. In a restless city where everyone seemed to be chasing something greater, there was a 27-year-old man named Alex. On paper, Alex had won a secure position at an insurance firm, solid income, benefits, stability, the kind of life that earns nods of approval from parents and quiet envy from friends. You've made it, they would say. But deep down, he knew he was only surviving, not becoming. But Alex didn't feel successful. He felt like he was suffocating in slow motion. He had 4 friends, not just friends, but history. Over 10 years of inside jokes, late-night confessions, and shared struggles. They were the only people who knew who he was before the world told him who to be. There was Marcus, his brother since high school. Dependable. Hilarious. The kind of guy who would show up at 3 a.m. with pizza and help you move without asking questions. But somewhere along the way, Marcus had folded his dreams into a drawer and never opened it again. Retail job. Gaming at night. "I'm good, man," he'd say, convincing himself more than anyone else. Then Jordan. A professional victim. His job was unfair. His girlfriend didn't understand him. The economy was broken. The system was rigged. In his world, accountability didn't exist, only excuses did. Kevin was different. He spoke in headlines. "I'm launching a business. I'm traveling next year. This is my transformation season." Every year was the beginning of something. Nothing ever began. And Ryan, magnetic, loud, unforgettable. The spark in every room. Designer clothes, expensive tabs, big energy. But behind the scenes, maxed out credit cards and anxiety he'd never admit to. Alex loved them, truly, but every time he talked about building something of his own, a consulting firm, financial freedom, risk, growth, the air changed. He didn't see pride in their faces, he saw tension. When he mentioned reading business books, Marcus laughed. "Bro, you turning into one of those grind-obsessed hustle guys now?" It was a joke, but it didn't feel like one. When Alex said he wanted to save aggressively to launch his own company, they laughed. "Why risk it? You've got stability. That's rare. Don't be stupid." When he skipped Friday night drinks to build his side project, the jokes sharpened. "Bro, you're different now. You used to be fun." So little by little, he shrank. He stopped talking about the books that were changing him, stopped sharing ideas, stopped saying the word future out loud, because wanting more started to feel like betrayal. Every Sunday night, staring at the ceiling, a pressure would settle on his chest. "I'm 27, he'd think. In 3 years, I'll be 30. In 10, 37. And if nothing shifts, same job, same conversations, same safe life, smiling on the outside, numb on the inside, but losing his friends? That fear was louder than the fear of wasting his potential. Then came his 28th birthday. He planned it weeks ahead, picked the restaurant, reserved a table for 6, even insisted on paying. He just wanted everyone together. That night, he showed up early. New shirt, clean shoes, phone in hand. The table stayed empty. Marcus texted, "Sorry, man, work ran late. We'll do something soon." Jordan, "Can't. My girlfriend's mad." Kevin, "Yo, totally slipped my mind. My bad." Ryan read the message. No reply. Alex sat there alone for 40 minutes. The waiter hovered politely. Other tables glanced over with that quiet, uncomfortable sympathy. He could almost hear it. He got stood up on his birthday. He ordered a drink. Then another. Paid the bill, walked home in the rain, too drained to call a cab. By the time he reached his apartment, he was soaked through. He stood in front of the mirror, water dripping onto the floor, and the man staring back at him looked like someone who had abandoned himself long before anyone else did. A man who had shrunk himself just to stay accepted by people who couldn't even show up when it counted. Water dripping from his hair, Alex stared at his reflection and whispered, "They don't care. They never cared about my dreams because they buried their own." But that wasn't the part that shattered him. What crushed him was this. He wasn't furious at them. He was furious at himself. They were living exactly how they chose to live. Comfortable, predictable, honest about their limits. He was the fraud. He had pretended he was okay with average, pretended he didn't crave more, pretended he belonged in a circle that had stopped evolving years ago. That night, he picked up his phone and opened an old group chat from a business networking event he'd attended once, then abandoned because he felt like an imposter. His thumb hovered over the keyboard. If I send this, I step into a different world. I might lose my friends, I might be alone, but if I don't, I lose myself. Silence filled the room. Then he typed, "Hey everyone, I've been quiet, but I'm ready to get serious. When's the next meetup?" He hit send before fear could answer for him. 3 days later, Alex walked into a co-working space for a future founders meetup. He had never felt smaller. People were discussing revenue targets, marketing funnels, expansion plans. They spoke the language of momentum, of growth, of risk. Alex stood there, hands in his pockets, feeling invisible. He didn't belong here. He almost turned around. That's when a man in his 50s, sitting quietly in the corner with a book, looked up and smiled. "First time?" the man asked. Alex nodded. "I can see it." "See what?" "That expression," the man said calmly. "The look of someone who's outgrown his old life, but hasn't built the new one yet." The words hit harder than they should have. He introduced himself as Mr. Richardson, a former business owner who now mentored young founders. "Sit," he said gently. "You're standing like a man at a crossroads." He opened a notebook and drew a small circle in the center of the page. "This is you." Then he drew 5 circles around it. "These are the 5 people you spend the most time with." Alex leaned in. Mr. Richardson added arrows, all pointing from the outer circles toward the center. "Everyone around you is pulling you. Some lift you higher, some drag you lower. Others keep you exactly where you are, comfortable, unchanged." He looked Alex straight in the eyes. "Out of your 5, how many are pulling you up?" Alex swallowed. "None." "And how many are pulling you down?" A long pause. "All of them." "They don't mean to," Alex added quickly. "Intention is irrelevant," Mr. Richardson said softly. "Gravity doesn't need bad intentions to make you fall. If you surround yourself with people descending, you will descend. It's not personal. It's math." He flipped the page and sketched a mountain. One climber halfway up, 5 hands reaching from below, gripping his ankles. When you start rising, those who stayed at the bottom will reach for you, not out of hatred, but because your climb reminds them they stopped. The room felt smaller. "So here's your choice," Mr. Richardson continued. "Stay where it's warm and familiar with people who love you but refuse to grow, or climb alone until you find others who are already climbing." Alex's eyes burned. "They're my friends. They've always been there." "Have they supported your growth?" the mentor asked quietly. "Or have they simply occupied space in your life?" Silence. Sharing laughs isn't the same as building momentum. Loyalty without evolution becomes limitation. He closed the notebook. "You can love people," he said, "without shrinking for them, but you cannot evolve beside those who have chosen to stand still." Mr. Richardson's voice turned serious. "There's something else you need to know. The next 6 months will feel brutally lonely. You won't fit in anywhere. Your old circle will feel distant. Your new one won't trust you yet. You'll be stuck in between." He paused. "That in between? That's where transformation happens. Most people retreat because they can't survive the silence. The question is, can you?" He was right. The next 6 months were war. Alex showed up to entrepreneur meetups every week, feeling like an outsider crashing a private club. They discussed scaling strategies and profit margins while he was still drafting his first client proposal. He woke up at 5 a.m. to grind on his side project before dragging himself to his day job. He was always tired, always behind, always doubting. He cut expenses ruthlessly. No bars, no random spending, no distractions. It didn't feel inspiring. It felt like sacrifice. Month 1, his old friends kept inviting him out. When he declined, they laughed. "Look at Mr. CEO. Too busy for us now?" Month 2, fewer invites. Month 3, silence. Then Marcus sent a final message. "Bro, I don't even recognize you anymore. You've changed, not in a good way. Hit me up when you're ready to be yourself again." Alex stared at that text for an hour. He cried. His fingers hovered over the screen, ready to surrender. "You're right, I'm sorry. Let's hang out Friday." It would have been so easy. But then he remembered sitting alone at that birthday table, remembered the empty chairs. They loved the version of him that stayed small, the version that didn't threaten their comfort, the version that asked for nothing and expected nothing. They didn't love the fire. They didn't love the ambition. They didn't love the man who refused to settle. With shaking hands, he typed, "I love you, Marcus, but I can't go back to who I was. I hope one day you understand." And for the first time in his life, Alex chose his future over his fear, and he pressed send. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. Weeks rolled by. Alex worked alone, ate alone, spent Saturdays in quiet coffee shops while his old friends posted smiling group photos without him. It hurt more than he expected. Some nights, he almost folded, almost called Marcus to say, "You were right. I was being dramatic. Let's go back to normal." But 3 months in, something shifted. Sarah, a sharp, focused woman from the entrepreneur group who ran a thriving marketing agency, messaged him. "Hey, Alex, I've noticed you show up every week. Most people disappear after 2. Want to grab coffee? I'm curious what you're building." That coffee became strategy sessions. Strategy sessions became a collaboration. That collaboration turned into his first real referral. And then something powerful happened. Momentum. Sarah introduced him to David, who was building a tech startup from scratch. David connected him with Michelle, who had walked away from corporate security to chase purpose. Michelle brought him into deeper rooms. These people didn't just socialize, they pushed each other, shared resources, exposed blind spots, demanded growth. 6 months after that lonely birthday, Alex signed his first consulting client. 8 months in, his side income surpassed his salary. 10 months in, he resigned. His new circle celebrated not with loud music and cheap drinks, but in a co-working space, whiteboards filled with plans for what was next. That same night, Alex saw Marcus's Instagram story. Same bar, same table, same jokes, same complaints about bosses and bills and someday. And Alex felt something unexpected. Not anger, not pride, just clarity. They had chosen comfort. He had chosen expansion. For the first time in years, he understood something deeply. It is better to walk alone toward growth than to stay surrounded while shrinking. 1 year after that empty birthday dinner, Alex ran into Marcus in a grocery store aisle. The conversation was careful, polite, shallow. "So, you actually did it?" Marcus asked. "You started the business?" Alex nodded. "You happy?" He thought for a second. "I'm becoming who I'm meant to be. It's lonely sometimes, but it's mine." Marcus looked at the floor. "I think about what you said about wanting more. It scares me." "I know," Alex replied quietly. "That's why most people never move." They hugged, promised to catch up. They both knew they wouldn't. "Now let me speak to you directly. You become the reflection of the 5 people closest to you. Not because of magic, because humans adapt. We mirror. We normalize whatever surrounds us. If you spend your life around complainers, complaining becomes your language. If you sit with people who buried their dreams, you'll slowly bury yours. If mediocrity is celebrated in your circle, ambition starts to feel like rebellion. Not because you lack strength, but because belonging is powerful. We will shrink ourselves just to avoid being alone. Changing your environment feels like betrayal. It feels selfish. It feels cruel. You will lose people. You will question yourself. You will sit in silence wondering if you made a mistake. But here's what no one warns you about. The loneliness of growth is temporary. The regret of staying small lasts forever. So look closely at your inner circle. Are they living where you want to be in 5 years? Do they challenge your excuses or protect them? Do they celebrate your ambition or subtly mock it? You don't need to hate anyone. You don't need dramatic exits, but you do need honesty about who gets access to your time, your energy, your future. This week, do one uncomfortable thing. Have coffee with someone ahead of you. Join a room where you feel inexperienced. Say no to one invitation that keeps you stuck. If guilt shows up, good. That guilt means you're breaking an old identity. If this story hits something inside you, share it with someone strong enough to hear it. Not everyone will understand, but the ones who do, they're probably meant to climb with you. Remember this, you can love people without shrinking for them, but you can only grow beside those who are moving forward. The next level of your life may feel lonely. Step into it anyway.